Hi, my name is Jim Beckman. I work for the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City for the Secretariat of Evangelization and Catechesis. The Archbishop has asked our staff to lead the Archdiocese through a process of planning, specifically asking the question, what's next? The reason why we're asking that question is because his first pastoral letter, which many of you will remember, was released in October of 2013. In numerous places in that letter, the Archbishop refers to a 5-year time frame. And we're at the end of those 5 years. So it's the natural question for us to ask, what's next? How is God leading the Archdiocese into the future? So we've spent a lot of time over the past year asking that question and leading us through a process to plan for the future. In the Archbishop's first letter, though, he emphasizes 3 key priorities: the new evangelization, faith formation, and Hispanic ministry. Of those 3 priorities, much has been done to address them. With the new evangelization, one of the first things that happened was the Archbishop established a new office for the new evangelization. That led, though, to lots of consultation and talk about a needed restructuring of the whole chancery offices. That restructuring was done and ultimately led to a new Secretariat for Evangelization and Catechesis, which is the staff that I now work with. With faith formation, much was done to strengthen our faith formation efforts, and particularly things with adolescent catechesis. We're building on a great foundation here in our Archdiocese. Countless religious sisters and brothers and priests and lay leaders and teachers and catechists who for many, many years have served, particularly our young people, with catechesis. We want to strengthen those efforts and continue building on that foundation of what's happened over the last 5-6 years in particular. The third area, though, Hispanic ministry, is probably where we've seen the greatest momentum in the last 5 to 6 years. Much of what was done in response to the Archbishop's mandate from his first letter led eventually to the purchase of some land in order to ease the overcrowding that we're experiencing in many of our South metro parishes. There was talk about building a new church that could ease some of that overcrowding. I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams would have envisioned how that would have coupled with the effort, the beatification effort for Blessed Stanley Rother, and eventually a capital campaign, and now what everyone is well aware of with the building of the new Blessed Stanley Rother Shrine. So exciting developments with all of that. We also had our Office of Hispanic Ministry that launched a new Escuela San Juan Diego, a special school to bring faith formation to adults in the Hispanic population. That school has been very, very popular, and we celebrated the graduation of over 200 adults who went through that program and have launched now this past fall the 2nd cycle of that program. We also were very blessed in the past couple of years that at the same time that we were focusing on this priority of Hispanic ministry, the whole country was. Over the last several years, there's been the national 5th Encuentro that took place with local gatherings, regional gatherings, and ultimately a national gathering where the Hispanic population were focusing on what are some of the pastoral needs and concerns for that population and how do we more effectively meet those. We celebrate all of these accomplishments that have happened in the last 5 or 6 years. And what an exciting time that we're living in right now. As the 5-year time frame of that first pastoral letter from the Archbishop comes to an end, we also are seeing ourselves as an archdiocese have the beatification event for Blessed Stanley Rother and record attendance, Catholics from all over coming together to celebrate that historic event. We've launched our first ever capital campaign And now, as we're beginning the fourth wave of parishes, it's been wildly successful in raising funds for the future and for our archdiocese. It's been a powerful time here in the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, and it's a great opportunity for us to step back and ask this question, what's next? So our staff started this process by first building a team. We wanted to get a team of key leaders from all around the Archdiocese, priests and deacons and lay leaders. We wanted to have people who represented various ethnic groups from throughout the Archdiocese. We built a team of 12 people to help us with this visioning process. And we launched that team a little over a year ago in January of 2018. The second phase of the process was sifting through all of the information that we've already heard. So we went back to the original listening sessions that the Archbishop held back in 2012. There were 6 of those sessions held in key places around the Archdiocese. We went back and looked at all of those listening sessions and the feedback forms and the surveys and all of the information that was gathered at those events. There's also been a number of other consultations and planning things that have happened over the last 5 years that gathered lots of data as well. So the first thing that the vision team did was sift through all of that information and see if we could identify some common threads. Were there things that had already been said and articulated about the kinds of priorities we needed to have as an archdiocese that we could identify? And here's what emerged. Many of you may have seen this because we have shown this in a number of places throughout the Archdiocese. The kinds of pastoral concerns that emerged from all of this research was we need to build a culture of conversion and discipleship in all of our parishes and schools in the Archdiocese. We need to strengthen marriages and family life for our Archdiocese. We need to strengthen education and formation at all levels, both in the parishes and in our schools. We need to integrate our ministry efforts for the rapidly growing Hispanic population and other cultural groups that are also growing here in the Archdiocese. And a fifth priority that emerged was a unique concern for our young people. We articulated this priority as address the unique needs of the young, but the reason why we put it in this graphic image the way that we did was the vision team felt very strongly that the unique needs of the young were actually in all of the other priorities as well. We need to think about young people when we're strengthening education and formation. We need to think about young people when we're talking about conversion and discipleship. It seemed like there was a concern for young people that kind of filtered into all of the other priorities at the same time. So this is what emerged. We then began the third phase of this process, where we took everything that had emerged from all of the research and study that we had done, and we took it out to the Archdiocese. We identified 74 different groups of people, various groups, parish leaders and lay leaders and deacons and ministry organizations and movements, 74 different groups of people that we either gathered together with in focus group sessions or in large group gatherings, but we wanted to go out to the Archdiocese and ask them, what do you think about what's emerging from all that we're hearing? After all of those listening and feedback sessions all around the Archdiocese, one of the interesting things that happened was we had virtually no additional things added to the list of priorities that had emerged. We had very strong validation from groups all over the Archdiocese for these pastoral priorities. Then began a process of working with our priests. And over late spring and into the summer last year, We had a number of gatherings with priests, sharing these strategic priorities with them and super goals, and getting their feedback into this process. Over the course of the summer, and from all of the feedback with the priests, 2 other additional priorities emerged. One was the liturgical and sacramental life of the church, how that's such a critical part of who we are as Catholics, and it really is just a part of the fabric of our very identity. And second, Catholic social teaching, and specifically corporal works of mercy, how service to the poor and preferential option for the poor, like those kinds of characteristics and values are something that are very, very much at the heart of who we are as Catholics. So what emerged after all of this process, I'm putting an image on the screen for us now that kind of captures in a visual what has emerged, and what I think is a clear path forward for us as an archdiocese. The 5 original super goals, all still there, but now seen through a lens of the liturgical, sacramental life of the church and Catholic social teaching, corporal works of mercy. Those 2 things really capture, in some ways, love of God and love of neighbor. And that is, in a unique way, the lens that all of these other pastoral concerns need to be seen through. As this clear vision began to emerge, the next step was for the Archbishop to decide how he wanted to articulate the vision for this to the Archdiocese. He had an opportunity over the summer, late summer and into early fall, to begin working on a new pastoral letter. This new letter was released on January 25th. It's been available online, and hard copies of the book are going to be available very, very soon. But the Archbishop decided to title the letter with the same title. So his letter back in 2013 was Go Make Disciples. This new pastoral letter is Go Make Disciples, building a culture of conversion and discipleship for the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. With this new pastoral letter, the Archbishop is setting a clear vision for us as an archdiocese moving forward for the next 10 to 12 years. This is why we're calling this new process Vision 2030. But the Archbishop also, with this letter, sets an emphasis or a priority on one of those super goals, building a culture of conversion and discipleship. Towards the end of his new pastoral letter, the Archbishop gives a plea to those of us in the Archdiocese, a direct summons. I'd like to share his words directly for us now. Where do we go from here? There is greater clarity today in our call to go make disciples than there was 5 years ago. This call to personal holiness and missionary discipleship is our path into the future. I invite every Catholic to embrace this summons. And I call on my priests, deacons, religious, and staff of the Archdiocese to lead us during this next year to a clear articulation of a pastoral strategy for how to pursue and foster this identity as missionary disciples. A number of pastoral priorities already have been identified. I need your input and feedback to refine and implement them. In the coming year, I have asked my staff to organize a number of listening sessions. I will participate in these as I am able. I want to hear from our people the desires of their hearts for our church. This is what's next for us. We are planning 6 regional gatherings and listening sessions all around the Archdiocese. You can see those locations on the map on your screen right now. I want to invite you to come and join us for one of these gatherings, to come and share your heart for our church during this unique time in history, and to come and give us some feedback about how do these pastoral super goals begin to take shape in your local parish, in your local school, in your Catholic organization. We want to come and get feedback and hear from people all throughout the Archdiocese their thoughts and concerns as we go through this process. Here are some questions we're going to be focusing on when we gather. How do these super goals resonate for your local community, for your parish, your school? What programs do you already have in your parishes to support these super goals? What needs to happen for your parish to focus on these priorities more intentionally in the next 2 to 3 years? What obstacles do you think you'll face? What extra support will you need? There's materials about this Vision 2030 process available on the Archdiocesan website. You can go to archokc.org/2030, and all of the resources for this process are all there available online. You can also register there to go to any one of these regional gatherings. I really want to invite you to engage with us and with this process, to come and share your heart and give us your feedback and help us as we craft the pastoral vision for our Archdiocese moving forward for the next 10 to 12 years. Thank you so much for your time.